Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is NateFNGreat. Welcome to another edition of the Game Changer Podcast. Now, normally I talk about wrestling and pop culture, movie reviews, such like that. This episode's going to be a little bit different because I'm actually going to be commenting on a wrestling video from the wrestling show that was posted not too long ago. And it's entitled Kate Jones Addresses the State of Women's Wrestling. About a 4-minute video, and I've watched it a couple of times, and I thought that it might be a good idea to not only go into this again, play it on the show, but also give my take on this. Because I will say this, first time since I've worked with them for about a year, this is one that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I'll get a little bit into more why that is a little bit later on during the show, but I'm going to go bit by bit as far as Kate's points and give my opinions on them, and then I'll go through a final thoughts session at the end about the video itself, as well as what's been addressed in this video. So guys, let's take a listen.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Kate Jones, and I don't usually do this, but I have a few things that have been really bothering me lately about the state of women's wrestling. Yes, the women's wrestling division is a man-made disaster. Absolute disaster. And let me tell you why. Let's start with...
So, before she goes any further than that, she used the phrase man-made disaster. So, that's something that I can get 50-50 with, because the women who want to get into wrestling, that is their decision to get into wrestling, and they have the right to say whether they want to do a certain angle or whether they want to do a certain match. They have those decisions because they are independent contractors. Don't forget that. However, one of the things that I do want to press upon is the fact that a lot of people who agent the matches, who produce the matches, such like that, they're mainly behind the mind of men who, let's face it, there are a lot of guys out there that unfortunately still think that women are delicate and they need to be taken care of and such like that. They should be on the same level as women. They should be given the same kind of storylines, which is why people loved the Becky Lynch storyline. They should be able to go crazy whenever they want to, which is why people like Mickie James and AJ Lee, so many others, were very successful. And there should be times where they are definitely treated as equals, i.e. put into huge headline spots. Now, people like Sasha, Bianca, Becky, Charlotte, Ronda, they definitely have created the mold for that and have definitely been trailblazers to get women to that point. So I do think that if we had more men that can definitely treat them like the guys, but not entirely like the guys, here's my reasoning for that, is that if we treated them completely like 100% of the guys, they're going to also be running the same risks that they will do. I mean, you have to remember that a lot of guys have gotten injured because of, spots like flips and suicide dives and such like that. The women are going to suffer the same risks as well. So the women just need to find their own, way of wrestling. If they can do spots like that, then great. As long as they're being safe about it, that's what matters. But if it's one of those things where it's like a first time ever, somebody's trying that for the first time, that's where it's going to be a little bit sketchy. So you have to be really smart about that. You have to be safe about it. But I do agree that if we had more men that could take a chance with these women and let them just go out there and shine like stars, they definitely could be on the same level, and they should be on the same level as the men do. So let's continue on.
AEW. Their very first women's champion was a 90 pound fetish attraction. Absolutely appalling. I could beat her and pin her in 5 5 seconds. And you expect me to take your wrestling seriously. Not gonna happen. Let's talk about...
So, here's one spot that it's another 50-50 on. Because here's the thing about it, is that I've gotten the chance to see some matches with Rio, and I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm not one of her biggest fans, despite the fact I've looked at her accomplishments. I mean, she's been wrestling since she was 9. She's only 24 right now. It's one of those things that I definitely give her, a lot of credit for all the time and effort that she put in, but I feel like she's just still scratching the surface with me. And I will say this, that I was not a fan of her being the first women's champion of AEW, and it's not because of the fact that Kate said, she's 90 pounds, which honestly I was surprised to find out that she's billed as 99 pounds. That's impressive. It's not the fact that she's a quote-unquote fetish model or whatever she had for that. It's just one of those things where I just had a hard time getting behind her. If all honesty, we were going to pick somebody who was going to be, there. Honestly, I would have seen either Hikaru Shida or Nyla Rose be the first AEW Women's Champion. Now, eventually they would go on to become the champions, but this is just my opinion. I just think that Riho was not the person that should have been the first AEW Women's World Champion. Not going to discredit her, but it's just full on my opinion because I just couldn't get behind her. Just couldn't get into a lot of her matches. And I don't know. It's just something about her just does not click with me. So that's the reason why I feel like Riho should not have been first women's champion. Now, as far as Kate making the claim that she could beat her in 5 seconds, I think it would take more than 5 seconds. I'm not going to lie. Because despite, maybe her being taller than Riho, I feel like with the experience that Riho has, she definitely would give Kate a run for her money. And that is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So, let's continue on.
WWE's women's tag team division. I mean, they had one tag team, and then they fired them.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there. They actually had more than one tag team. They had the Elimination Chamber matchup for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. They had 6. They just decided to be really stupid about it and dwindle them down. So I'm just going to state that right now, that at the start of it, they had more. It's just unfortunately they did not give those teams the proper recognition that they deserved. But I'll go a little bit more into it in just a minute.
Wow. And now who's running it? Who, Natty? Natty? How is she still even on the payroll? I swear to God, she comes out to the ring with a big smile on her face, and all I want to do is knock it right off. Okay, women's wrestling is a mess. I think we can all agree.
All right, so before she gets too deep into that tangent there, I do think that the women's tag team division, again, as I stated before, definitely deserves a bit more of a reboot. In all honesty, I think that them adding the tag team titles for the women on NXT was a big mistake. Because those women's tag team titles should have been floating from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. Because that tag team division is so frail. It is so fragile that you were not going to accomplish anything by just arbitrarily cutting that tag team division in half when you really had barely anybody to do the job. So that's my opinion on that. Now, as far as her doing this knock on Natty, I'm not going to lie. Some of the things that they made Natty do was just really, really dumb. I mean, the farting gimmick, the whole she's the cat lady deal. Yes, she loves cats. I had a cat too. Therefore, I should be going on the wrestling show with cat ears. No. They keep her around because she is a good worker. She really is. I've not heard anybody complain about, her being stiff, her injuring somebody. She's somebody who is a great worker. And the fact that her and Tamina are the tag team champions, I'm cool with that. It's something that we've never really seen. We've never seen two generations, two different wrestling families united as one. You have a great wrestling family from Canada and a Samoan wrestling family united in one with Tamina and Natalya. I love this. I like the fact that they did that. Unfortunately, WWE has done such a crappy job of keeping me invested that I missed out on that tag team title win. But I'm happy to see that Natalya is still employed. She definitely deserves a lot more credit than she has been given. Unfortunately, she's been a former Divas champion, but she's also been a 2-time SmackDown Women's champion, which is great. She definitely deserves those accolades. She's not a slouch. It's just that she's unfortunately a part of the bad booking situation that I was mentioning before with women's wrestling, because it is definitely more dominated by men. If they would have had maybe a more women's perspective, she probably would have been one of the best women on the roster. She probably could have even been the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be, part 2. That's just my opinion. So we continue?
Agree on that. So what are we going to do? Well, let me tell you something. Women have been fighting for years and years and years not to be divided from men. No. We are fighting to be equal to men.
That is something I can fully agree on. I mean, you look at the track record of all the women that really wanted to either be on the same level as the men or just wanted to be, paired up against the men. It's absolutely just astonishing that now it seems like they're finally deciding, oh, hey, let's actually start incorporating this. We've kind of overlooked this for a long time. Let's actually put some, fuel in the tank of this, and let's actually get this machine going. It's really disappointing to see that. I mean, even in the olden days, I believe, Mae Young, Vapis Moolah, a lot of the, classic wrestlers, they wanted to, go one-on-one with the guys, and of course they're like, no, that's just appalling. That's just irresponsible. And when we get into the Attitude Era, there's a lot more, men on women violence. Lita doing Hurricane Ranas to a lot of the guys out there. The Dudley Boys hitting 3Ds as well as doing the table spots to a lot of the women, including Mae Young, of all people. My God. Nowadays, you don't see that as much unless, it's Bayley hitting a Bayley to belly, or they do this attraction match where I think recently they did Reginald versus Shayna Baszler. And honestly, I wasn't worried about Shayna Baszler. She is a former MMA fighter. She knows how to take care of herself. It is just mind-boggling to see that we're still in a world that women are still being taken for granted so much. So that's something that I can fully agree with as far as Kate goes, that women have definitely been trying to be on that same level, if not better than the men. And there are nights where they have been. I'm not going to deny that.
Every time I step into a ring with a man, I am there to prove that I'm as bold as a man, I'm as keen as a man, I'm as athletic as a man, and you know what, even besides that doesn't even matter. Female.
I will say this, that there are some things that she can do that I could not possibly do. Because physically, I can't do that. So, I can kind of give her the point on that one.
Male, I will dominate you in any arena. Any arena. I have men DMing me, emailing me every single day wanting to get into the ring with Kate Jones. Because they know that if they want to prove that they're dominant, they have to go through me, the former galactic champion.
Now, this is where it starts feeling like it's a promo. Because I will say this, that I've seen the comment section of a lot of the wrestling shows, content, and there's been a lot of guys, and a couple women too, that have admitted that they wanted to wrestle Kate. And I know there's a lot of people that would be asking, well, wouldn't you want to wrestle Kate? It's like, honestly, I'm not in any hurry to wrestle with Kate. It's not trying to knock on her skills and her abilities or anything like that. It's just one of those things where, she claims to be, dominant. She claims that, basically she's a 10-pole in the wrestling show that I need to beat in order to basically make a name for myself, which I will say this, she did not say that, but that's what I'm getting off of this. And I feel like with the matches that I've been creating on the wrestling show, that I don't feel the need to wrestle with Kate. If given the opportunity, yeah, I'm just going to treat her like any other matchup. But it's not going to give me, like, knots in my stomach or anything like that. Like, oh, I'm in the ring with the Kate Jones. I'm going to be an absolute, major star. No. And her, she is just as good as everybody else that's on that roster. And I mean that with all due respect. It's one of those things where, for me, I look at her the same way as I did anybody else I stepped in the ring with. She's another person I wrestle with. Go in, make sure we do a match, make sure that she is safe as well as me, and be done. Now, as far as some of the other people in the comments section, I think they want to do that more than just wrestle her. And unfortunately, that's just the dark world that we live in right now. I hate to be that person, but you can't really trust that many people that you've met online. And I can definitely vouch for that. And I can definitely speak from experience that not everybody online is truthful with their intentions. But that being said, we move on.
Just last week, I had some indie wrestler named Tyler Consiglio, and he had his panties all up in a bundle because I had the gall, the audacity to disrespect his ACW buddies. Let me tell you something, Tyler. It's not gall. It's not the audacity. I have the balls to explain to you little boys how it actually is. But you guys just can't help yourself from being whiny little jealous wrestlers just because Kate Jones made it to 5'5". That's right. I am taller, stronger, and better than all of you, and you know it. Just go to my YouTube channel.
All right, I want to stop before we get too deep into that because I definitely do have a good comparison with it. So this was something that I really should have addressed with Matt and with Kate, because the reason why they were at the ACW show to begin with was because of me. So for everybody in ACW that felt knocked on and felt, disrespected because of this, I will say this, that I don't know what exactly is going on with this, because I honestly was not expecting Kate to say the things that she said, and apparently there's been more than one person that has, been offended by the whole thing with the ACW debacle. So I got two things I want to address with this. So the first thing being that she tells me, even outside of the whole ACW event, that she feels like she could take on anyone. So here's my thoughts on that. She is not the same wrestler that all of these people that I've seen. So honestly, let me put it to you like this. If you were to have me watch a month of Stacey Shadow matches and a month of Kate Jones matches, I would still give the advantage to Stacey Shadows. Because of the fact that I know that Stacey Shadows definitely does her best, and that she's always going to be there busting her ass to ensure that she is proving that she's the best. Whereas with Kate Jones, I feel like she definitely has more of that cinematic style, which is not a bad thing. And she has her own dominance in her own way. But the two don't always mesh well together, which we've seen in WWE on multiple occasions. So comparing between the two, if she thinks that she could take on anybody at ACW, I will say this. Backwoods Brown, Joey Avalon, Stacey Shadows, Evil Sierra, the list goes on and on and on of people that I know she could not contend with, that she could not lace her boots with. Because I've seen them in a different limelight. And I've seen them as they bust their asses. I know that ACW is my home, and this is me defending my home. So this is the way that I see it. You feel like ACW is not the place for you, then stop bashing it. Because honestly, you keep doing that, I don't think they're going to want to work with you. I'm just being honest. Unless maybe this is all something that has been worked out between ACW and them, then okay. There should be no harm, no foul. If it's not, then what's going to happen is probably ACW is not going to look on you very fondly. And it doesn't matter how many, views that you have and such like that, which brings me to the next part of this, which, this is where it gets good. This is where it gets juicy, ladies and gentlemen.
The wrestling show. And look at all of my views, all of the love and respect that I get that you could not even dream of.
So, the perfect comparison of this is when Seth Rollins was Universal Champion, and he was on the Twitter deal where he was saying, try to find somebody who can be on my level, and Will Ospreay was just like, well, I'm here. Hello. And there's like this back and forth between Seth Rollins and Will Ospreay, where basically it ends with Seth Rollins stating, well, yeah, you probably did more matches than me, but look at my bank account. That's where he lost the battle. As soon as he mentioned money, he had lost. Because, sure, you could put in less effort to get more money for it, but unless you're somebody who's putting in a lot of the effort to get that same amount, then you're not earning as much as you think. I'm truly honest with that. As soon as she mentioned that, she had more subscribers, more views, more yada, 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 she lost the fight. She lost the battle. She did not stand that chance because a lot of these people have been on a national level. Cal Hero, one of the people that you probably could say is very scrawny looking and he's blah, 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 blah. Cal Hero has been on AEW, which is watched by millions of people. TW3, who was one of the boys for Dalton Castle, seen by millions of people. Stacey Shadows, who's been on Ring of Honor TV, seen by millions of people. Maybe I'm just a hypocrite for saying that. But the fact of the matter is that, again, going back to what I was saying about ECW guys and independent wrestlers here in Wisconsin, they bust their asses. They do so much work, and they're not just doing a once-a-month type of show. No. There are so many of these wrestlers that have gone to ACW, and then the next day, they go to GLCW, or they go to MLW in the Midwest, or they go to GCW, just throwing that out there. I highly doubt there's anybody from the Game Changer Wrestling deal, but they go to different places. They go to different places every night, so they're honing their craft. So if anybody has the audacity to say that, they can beat them with like one hand tied behind their back, I say good luck with that and happy munching to the person that they're going to confront. So we're almost done here, the last 30 seconds, and then I'll get to my final thoughts.
Not in a million years.
Yeah, okay.
So with that being said, if we want to fix the women's wrestling division, we need to kill it. Because it is destroying everything. Wolfpack for life.
All right. So, in order for the women's division to be relevant, you have to kill the women's division. You have to get rid of it. Okay, so all those women who put in the hard work that have been champion for the longest time, people like Mae Young, Rockin' Robin, Sherry Martel, Trish Stratus, Lita, Mickie James, Victoria, all those people, basically you're saying, thanks for being trailblazers, but we're just going to delete all of that. That's how we're going to end it, is by deleting everything. Because I don't know how else to take that. I really don't. I mean, there are promotions that do the whole, mixed wrestling deal, the intergender wrestling deals. And they don't have a women's division. They have the women mixed up with the guys. Lucha Underground was the perfect example. And be honest, they did a really good job of creating that environment for them. Because, well, it was probably in a cinematic deal, which probably helped them out. But there were a lot of times that I looked at a lot of these women in the matches, and I think, wow, they're on the same level as like the King Cuernos, the Prince Pumas, the Mil Muertes. Just seeing how these women definitely do a fantastic job. We're going to focus on that, delete everything else that everybody else did. That's what it just feels like was being said here. Now, there are certain parts that I would like to delete from the women's history, two of which involve two women who won male championships on major promotions that unfortunately received backlash for it. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about Sexy Star and Tessa Blanchard, because while, yes, they definitely deserved those accolades, the problem was that they had so much toxic baggage on them. With Sexy Star, unfortunately for her, she did not receive that toxic baggage until later on in her career, when she basically pulled a shoulder out of a woman's socket. With Tessa Blanchard, apparently this was something that was going on for a long time, which sucks that nobody said anything beforehand. So it's one of those things where I understand, basically doing like a hard reset on them might be a temporary solution, but I don't think it's the best solution. I really think that would be like final results. I kind of mentioned in the women's brand booking deal that I really wanted to make something where the women felt like they were just as good as the men. They got their own brand. They were treated the same. They got their own pay-per-view. The fact that they did get, why would we want to erase that? The fact that women have gotten their own pay-per-views in the past. In WWE, they did it one time, and it's been requested ever since. Unfortunately, they haven't brought it back, which I think is stupid. With TNA, when they had that slump of just throwing out random pay-per-views, they had one for the women there. And it's great because they wanted to show that women could be just as good as men and could probably draw as well as men. So having the women's division, deleted in any, if not all, wrestling promotions is not the perfect solution. I do not agree with that at all. So overall thoughts on this video. This is one of those things where, like I said, this was not my favorite video to watch on the wrestling show. This was something that definitely rubbed me the wrong way, because while I understand the intent that was being brought on from this, I do not fully agree with everything that she said. There were some things I mentioned that I agree on, but she really just talked about her grievances that she had, which I understand frustration comes out, and sometimes you don't think about, having, your reasonings behind that, but it really does help to have, reasons behind these kind of deals, because it'll definitely help back up your points. I mean, especially when it comes to her thoughts on, the independent wrestling here in Wisconsin, and her thoughts on that. Like I said, I wish that I would have taken the chance to talk to them in private, but this is also one of those things where I feel like putting it on this spot right now, where they've done this for the second time, it is something that I am not fully on board with. So there's a lot of things that are going to be coming up for the wrestling show, you guys. As far as Kate's video, I feel like this could have been handled better, but at the same time, this is with all due respect, it's her opinion, and her opinion can, resonate with me, or it could be something that I can just brush off and not worry about. Unfortunately, this is one of those things where I feel like I'm just going to brush it off, because I know that women's wrestling has come a long way. I know that there are women that she mentioned who definitely deserve the recognition that they deserve. Like I said, I talked about Rio, I talked about Natalya. They definitely deserve a lot more recognition that they deserve. It's just a situation where, unfortunately, people think that they've seen this person so many times that they're going into like Cena mode or something like that. So this is probably going to be something that gets me a lot of heat, but at the same time, I need my voice to be heard. So that is my thoughts on the video, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Take care, be safe, be respectful, and remember that you can make a difference one day at a time by changing the game. Have a good one, you guys. Bye-bye.